Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. 5090 O level biology, June 24. Now we're going to discuss another MCQ, which is the paper 1-1, which is another variant, but which is not examined in Pakistan, was examined somewhere else. And we're going to do the first 20 questions on that. Question number 1, the diagram shows some of the structures in a plant cell. Which label part shows sap vacuole, now a nucleus and a chloroplast? So Z is the nucleus, Y is the chloroplast, and X is the sap vacuole. So that's why the answer is B. Not a very difficult question. I think it's a very basic question. Nucleus is always larger than the chloroplast, and so everybody should be knowing that. A new organism is discovered. It contains DNA in a cellular structure, so it can't be a virus. Virus is not a cell. To which group of organism could it belong, and to which group it could not belong? So if it's not a cell, it not belong to. It cannot be a. It is discovered it contains DNA and a cellular structure. So could not belong would be virus, and could belong to bacteria or a fungus. So that is why the answer is D. It could be a bacteria, but it cannot be a. It's not a virus. Virus is not cellular. It's non-cellular. Then question number 3: when animal cells and plant cells are placed in distilled water, the animal cells burst, but the plant cells do not. Which statement explains the difference? The cell wall of the plant cell resists Turgor pressure. So the answer is D, but why the other answer is wrong? Animal cells do not contain starch grains, so there is no osmosis. Starch, by the way, does not accept the osmotic potential. Starch is insoluble. It's a large molecule. Only plants have a permanent vacuole which stores water. No, that's not right. Water enters into the cytoplasm. Plant cells have a stronger cell membrane than animal cells. No, they're both phospholipid bilayer. There's nothing stronger or weaker. Question number 4, the diagram shows the concentration of magnesium ions in a root hair cell of a healthy plant and in the soil water surrounding the root hair cell. The plant continuously uses up magnesium ions. So now the magnesium outside is 3 millimole, inside is 5 millimole. So how is magnesium going to enter into the root hair cell? Into the cell by active transport. Yeah, it can't be anything else. It can't be diffusion, because from a lower to a higher concentration, and it is needed by the cell. For the plant to remain healthy, magnesium will have to go into the root hair cell. The key shows shapes representing small food molecules, amino acids, fatty acids, glucose, and glycerol. Large food molecules are made from smaller food molecules. Which diagram represents a glycogen? Glycogen is made up of many, many hundreds and hundreds of glucose molecules joined together. So glucose is this one. So then it has to be B. So many glucose molecules join together to form a glycogen molecule. Question number 6, enzymes are biological catalysts. Which type of molecule can be an enzyme? Has to be a protein. Enzymes are protein, can't be carbohydrates, fat, nucleotides are part of the DNA molecule. Question number 7, the graph shows factors affecting the rate of photosynthesis. At which point in the graph could the rate of photosynthesis be limited by light intensity? Now, these are limiting factors, a very difficult syllabus point which everybody must understand. Here in this question, light intensity, till it's increasing, till here to here, this point, light is the limiting factor. So whatever is on the x-axis, that is the limiting factor. So at 3, carbon dioxide is the limiting factor. And then at 4, carbon dioxide is no longer limiting, something else is limiting. At 2, light intensity is no longer limiting, some other factor is limiting. So it says at which point in the graph could the rate of photosynthesis be limited by light intensity? So that if you increase the light, it will increase the rate of photosynthesis. So this is how you read this question. So the light is limiting at 1. So light is less. As you increase the light, you see here light, you increase the light, light increases. So 1 is the limiting factor. And then 4, because here CO2 no longer limiting, some other factor limiting. And then 5, why the temperature, at this temperature, if you increase the light, the rate of photosynthesis will increase. So that is why the answer is B, 1, 4, and 5. Rate of photosynthesis at this temperature is the optimum temperature. So if you keep this temperature, increase the light intensity, rate of photosynthesis will increase. So it's 1, 4, and 5. Question 8. The diagram shows a section through a leaf. What are the functions of parts labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4? Now, what is 1? 1 is chloroplast, so it's photosynthesis, could be any of these answers. 2 is transporting water, so it's xylem. 3 is transporting sucrose, it's the phloem. And 4 is the air spaces, so that's gaseous exchange. So that is why what we have to understand is we have to understand the structures and we have to understand what is the purpose of it. So the answer is D, photosynthesis. 2 is xylem transporting water. 3 is phloem transporting sucrose and amino acids in the phloem or the sieve tubes. And 4 is the air spaces, so gaseous exchange. Then question number 9, which pathway is taken by water and mineral ions through a plant? Water and mineral ions through a plant. So it's root hair cell, cortex cell, xylem, and then into the mesophyll cells. So root hair cells, cortex, xylem. You see root hair, then the cortex cells of the root, and then the xylem, and then it will go into the mesophyll cells. Question 10, a student investigated the rate of transpiration in the green plant. The plant was growing in soil in a pot. The student watered the plant and then put a plastic bag around the pot, leaving the leaves of the plant outside the bag. She measured the mass of the plant in the pot at the start and repeated this every 2 hours for 6 hours. The results of the investigation are shown: time of the day, mass of the pot and the plant, 1276, and then 1270, 1258, and then 1252. What is the mean rate of transpiration over the 6 hour period? So how would you do that? Is 1276 minus 1252 is 24, 6 hours divided by 6. So the answer to this is B, 4 grams per hour. Now, question number 11, the diagram shows what happens to amino acids in part of the human body. So first in the ileum, the amino acids enter the bloodstream, so that would be absorption, and then from the blood they go into the body cells, and then they're used to make protein, so that will be assimilation. So the body uses the body cells, the amino acids are used to make new proteins, maybe they're enzymes, maybe there's hemoglobin, maybe there's anything, antibodies, myoglobin. So the amino acids are used, and that is called, the use is called assimilation. Then coming to question number 12, a dish is filled with agar jelly containing starch. 4 holes are cut into the jelly and each hole is filled as shown in the diagram. After 30 minutes, which will be surrounded by the largest area without starch? Why A? Because that contains amylase. This is amylase with hydrochloric acid, that will not work. Gastric protease will not work on the starch. Gastric protease with hydrochloric acid, that will not work on starch. It contains starch. Question number 12. A dish is filled with agar jelly containing starch. 4 holes are cut into the jelly and each hole is then filled as shown in the diagram. After 30 minutes, which will be surrounded by the largest area without starch? Why would it be A? Because this contains amylase solution. But why would it be wrong? Amylase with hydrochloric acid, that will not work. Gastric protease will not work on starch, and the gastric protease with HCl will not work on starch. So the answer is A, which means amylase will digest it, and then all this area will be free of starch. Because you see, the agar jelly is containing, it says agar jelly containing starch. So all this is starch. This is all starch. This gray area is all starch. Let me give it another color. So this, all this area is starch. Question number 13. A healthy person eats a meal containing carbohydrates. 2 hours later, which structure contains a liquid with an increased concentration of blood? Has to be hepatic portal vein. Because you see, from the intestines, the capillaries join to form the hepatic portal vein, which is going to take it to the liver. So hepatic portal vein, and because it contains a liquid, colon does not contain a liquid. Renal artery, yes, contains a liquid. Ureter also contains a liquid, but it would be the hepatic portal vein which is carrying blood from the intestine to the liver. Question number 14. Which cells in the gas exchange system produce mucus? That's the goblet cells. And they produce mucus. So that was a very direct question, very easy question. Which equation represents anaerobic respiration in humans? Anything which produces lactic acid but no carbon dioxide. So that is why the answer would be C, which is glucose to lactic acid. But students mix this up and they would have done mostly with A, which is glucose just to carbon dioxide, lactic acid. That's of course would be wrong. That is because it says glucose plus carbon dioxide. That's totally wrong. And this is also wrong because there's no carbon dioxide produced. Here, no carbon dioxide is used. Then question number 16, the heart acts as a pump pushing fluid through the circulatory system. The arrows on the diagram of heart indicate the direction in which blood flows. At which point is the pressure of the blood the greatest? At which point would it be greatest? It has to be C because this is the aorta coming out. So aorta has the one which is so the answer to this would be C because aorta carrying blood at the highest pressure. 17. A person cuts and grazes do not heal and the blood does not clot easily. What may be the causes of these symptoms? Does not clot. Heal would be vitamin C, but there's no choice of vitamin C. So, question number 17, the answer is C, a lower than normal level of platelets in the blood. Platelets are required for clotting, progress release the enzyme thrombokinase and all that, prothrombin to thrombin, and then fibrinogen to fibrin. Then question number 18, how is the malarial parasite transmitted to humans? By mosquito saliva entering the bloodstream. You see, when it sucks the blood of an infected, first it sucks the blood of an infected person, plasmodium goes into the mosquito, divides, then goes to the salivary glands, and before it sucks the blood of another person, it injects the saliva, which contains an anticoagulant to prevent the blood clotting in its mouth parts. So, the mosquito saliva carries the plasmodium, and that is how it is transferred from one person to another. Then, question number 19. Some fatal diseases are associated with smoking tobacco. In 1990, the government of a country began a campaign to persuade people to stop smoking. The graph shows the number of people dying from smoking-related diseases in the year after 1990. You can see number of deaths due to smoking. You can see the year. If the number of people dying from smoking-related disease continued to fall at the same rate, in which year would there be no deaths caused by smoking? So you just have to extend it in the same gradient. So you just had to extend it and you would get the answer to that. And the answer was 2030, which is the C, and you just extended it and you can see it goes up to 2030. And it would be in the same sort of gradient that we're talking about, the same slope. So you do it in the same slope in which you join the points and then you just extrapolated it. 20. Which disease can be treated effectively with an antibiotic? Antibiotics only kill bacterial diseases. HIV is a virus. Malaria is caused by Plasmodium, which is a protoctist, which is not a bacteria. It's an eukaryote. Cholera is a bacterial disease, so it will be only 3, which is treated by antibiotics. Then question number 21. In 2022, many countries require travelers to be fully vaccinated against the COVID-19 virus. New Zealand's requirement stated you need to have had the vaccination at least 14 days before you arrive. Why did New Zealand require a period of 14 days after vaccination before the entry was allowed? You see, the vaccine was the antigen and it would make your body make antibodies against it. So, in a way, you would have the antibodies. So, the to allow for the production of antibodies because the B lymphocyte selection, cloning, and then differentiation, and then the plasma cells and the memory cells they develop, and you would have enough antibodies in your system and you'd have enough memory cells in your body so that if you again were invaded by the virus, you would not get the disease. Question number 22. Which row identifies the contents of urine in a healthy person? Now, the healthy person does not have any glucose in their urine. It's only diabetics who have glucose in their urine. Even if you eat a lot of sweet things, you do not have any glucose in your urine. Please remember that. Which row identifies? So there should be no glucose in it. So the answer is D, no glucose. It has urea, it has water, and it has ions. Which statement describes the role of components of the nervous system? Question number 23. Effectors respond to environmental changes and send impulses to the central nervous system. Oh, no, no, no. Receptors, effectors are muscles and glands, right? So parts of the central nervous system can only transmit into a single effector at a time. No, parts of the peripheral nervous system carry impulses to effectors and receptors from the central nervous system. No. So receptors respond to environmental changes and send impulses to the central nervous system. Yeah, that's right. So the answer to question number 23 is D. Like you touch something hot and you withdraw your hand. You enter this room is very hot. Well, how did you know that? Receptors in the skin are sending information to the brain. And the brain tells you, oh, this room is very hot. Let's put on the fan. Let's put on the air conditioning. Question number 24. The diagram shows a section through the eye. And it says in the pupil reflex. Pupil reflex is what happens. Muscles in the iris. Which is the iris? Iris is 3. Which row gives the sites of the effector and the receptor? So when somebody shines a torch in your eye and your pupil becomes lesser in diameter, well, it's actually the retina which has detected it. So 1 is the receptor and 3 is the muscle of the iris. So the answer would be A. But when would the answer be 1 and 4? 4 is the ciliary muscle, and that only works when you're looking at a distant or a near object. So I could change this question and say receptor would still be the retina, and the effector would then be 4 because the ciliary muscle contracts and relaxes to alter the shape of the lens. The suspensory ligaments do nothing, they just become either slack or taut, or they become tight. So either they become slack or taut. So ciliary muscles will either contract or relax. Question number 25. The graph shows changes in the body temperature of a person over a 60-hour period. Body temperature, time of the day, 1200 hours and 18, then 12 and 60 hours. That's 24, 24, 48, and then another. So 2 days and something. So the temperature of the person is always lower at 18 than at 600 hours. So you need to see it every 18, 600 hours, 1800 hours, and 600 hours. No, that's wrong. The range is shown by the data as 1 degree Celsius. No, it's not 1 because you see it's here. What are we seeing is between 36 and between 37 point something. Uh, the temperature of the person after 9 hours from the start is 36.8. 9 hours from the start would be somewhere here. So the answer to 25 is D. Over this period, the mean temperature of the person at 1800 is 36.8 degrees Celsius. Question number 26. Which process is stimulated by adrenaline in the cells of the liver? Breakdown of glycogen to increase the blood glucose level, because adrenaline is a fight, flight, and fright hormone. So we need more blood glucose in order for aerobic respiration to generate ATP, or energy is released, so that the person can either put up a fight or do something to avoid that fight, fright, and flight situation. Question number 27. The diagram shows experiments to investigate the response of plant shoots to light. Which shoot will not grow towards light? So it is, the answer to this is A. Why? Because they put a glass plate inserted halfway below the tip. So then the oxygen cannot move downwards. The rest of them, all of them will grow, will not grow towards the light. You see, light, the tip of the shoot removed, and then replaced. Here it was removed and replaced, so that's fine. But the tip of the shoot removed and replaced to one side because light is acting on this side. So this side grows more. This side is where the oxygen is going to be. So all the others will grow, but this will not grow because they have put it on the other side. Here you have the auxin on this side. This is the side where you have the growth, and then that is going to curve towards light. Question number 28. The diagram shows the life cycle of species of plant during which stage is reduction division going to take place. Very simple. It's going to be A because pollen is the male gamete. And whenever pollen is going to be formed, that is going to be reduction division. Question number 29. Advantage of sexual reproduction, offspring show genetic variation. In sexual reproduction, there's not one parent, two parents are needed, and pollinators are needed, and it's not faster than asexual reproduction. Question number 30. Some features of four flowers A, B, C, and D are recorded in a table. Which flower is most likely to be pollinated by wind? Now, I would have said the one which does not have large petals. So I was easy. I would have just cornered. I would just have then narrowed it down to A because large petals are not required in wind pollinated flowers. What is the path taken by the sperm cell during ejaculation of the male reproductive system? So it was very basic. It was testes, sperm duct, and then the urethra. 32. The diagram shows the female reproductive system, which label describes the cervix. Cervix is the opening of the uterus into the vagina. So it would be very easy. This was not such a very, this would be D. So this is the cervix, which is the opening of the uterus, and there is a muscle here which keeps it closed when the fetus is developing. Question number 33. The graph shows the percentage of the population with different ABO blood groups in one region. So you have O group is about nearly 49%, and then A is about 38%, and then B is 10% of the population, and AB is about 3 or 4% of the population. How does the graph suggest that variation in ABO blood groups is discontinuous? There are intermediates. The percentage of the population with each blood group is different. There is a limited number of phenotypes. There is a range of phenotypes between two extremes. So this is a discontinuous variation. In discontinuous variation, there is a limited number of phenotypes. So there are only four blood groups. There are no intermediates. Like we say, height of 16-year-olds is continuous variation. In this, we only have four possibilities. Either a person is O, A, B, or AB. There's only four possibilities: O group, A group, B group, or AB group. Of course, it can be positive, negative. There'll be eight. Can't be more than that. So limited number of phenotypes. That is the answer. There are intermediates. No, there is no intermediates. There are only four distinct categories. The percentage of the population with each blood group is different. Well, that does not in any way matter in variation. In variation, we don't look at that. There is a range of phenotypes between two extremes. No, there are no extremes and there's no range. Question number 34. For a gene with two alleles A and small a, which diagram identify these alleles and the genotypes they can form? So if there is only big A and small a, so homozygous has to be what? It has to be big A, big A. But recessive allele cannot be big A, it has to be small a. So this one is wrong. Why is this one wrong? Homozygous doesn't mean this. This is heterozygous. So this is wrong. And then D, what is wrong about D? There's no recessive allele. It's not heterozygous. This is wrong. So the only correct answer is C, which is homozygous has to be big A, small a. Recessive has to be small a. Dominant has to be big A, and heterozygous has to be big A, small a. So I've told you why the others are wrong and why this was correct. 35. Over time, a species of bird develops more pointed beak. Over a 50 years, 100 years, 600 and 200 years. Over time, a species of bird develops a more pointed beak. The more pointed shape of the beak helps the bird to catch small insects that may be among the cracks in the rocks. What is the reason for the change in the shape? This is natural selection and evolution. Birds develop more pointed beaks? No, that's wrong. They can't develop that. Individuals with less pointed beaks are better adapted. No, the more pointed ones are the better adapted. So this is wrong. Individuals with more pointed beaks are better able to compete for food. Yes, that's the answer. When reproducing, birds are more likely to seek out mates with less pointed beaks. You see here, the less pointed beaks is all wrong because we are saying that the more pointed ones are able to catch one, so they are better adapted. So their generations or their traits will carry on in the next generation and the next generation. Then question number 36. In the process of genetic modification to make artificial insulin, a protein, which material is inserted into the host bacterium and what effect does this have? Is the human DNA, and it affect in the bacterial assembly of amino acids and synthesis of protein. So that is why the answer to this was C. What is inserted into a bacterium is the insulin gene. And what are they going to make? Its effect on the bacteria is going to make insulin for us. It's going to correct, it's going to assemble the amino acids and synthesize insulin, which is a protein. Question number 37. The diagram shows a food web for an ecosystem. Which group of organism in an ecosystem is not shown in this food web? Well, in a food web, you never show the decomposers. The decomposers will decompose anything, the plant matter or the animal matter or any consumer, primary, secondary, tertiary consumer. But it does not show in the food web, we do not show any decomposers. Now it says here 38, the graph shows the atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration from 1968 to 2000 in a country. Carbon dioxide concentration in parts per million, you can see that it's in 1968. There is more and then there's less. So every year there's more and less and then more and less, more and less. Every year there is variation. Every year, 1968, then 1969, then 1970, 71, 72. Every year there are variations. Which is the best explanation for these variations? Very simple. Increased rate of photosynthesis in the summer months of each year. So in the winter, of course, there'll be less, but in the winter, the photosynthesis will be less because there's less light, temperatures are low. So there'll be less photosynthesis, but respiration is going to be the same all throughout. Diagram shows what happens to rain when it falls on an area of forested land before and after houses are built. Now they're giving you figures: rainfall 100%, transpiration is 40%, transpiration is 25% here. Here is 40%. And then the runoff is 10%. The runoff is a question mark. Groundwater is 50%, and groundwater here is 32%. So very easily you can calculate this runoff by adding 25 and 32 and plus whatever. So 57, 100 minus 57 is 43. So runoff here would be 43%. Now from 10%, it has gone up to 43%. So what is the difference in the percentage of surface runoff before and after building the houses? Increases by 33%. So that is the correct answer. Doesn't increase by, from 10 it has gone up to 43. So increases by 33%. So that is why the answer to 39 is an A. Question number 40. The graph shows the concentration of oxygen in a river measured at stations 1 to 5, each 100 meters apart. There is a sewage outflow just after station 1. At which stations are the concentration of organic matter the lowest? Well, it has to be the lowest at 1 because this is before the sewage outflow, and then it has to be at 5 when it has flown. It is when the river has sort of passed through that. So it is 1 and 5, which is A. That completes this paper, and wish you all the luck. And please leave your comments if there's anything which I can improve on this videos. Thank you very much.